Good evening, or morning, or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this, advanced math students. Today's mini lesson, our last one on ratios, is finding the size of the part or the whole in percent problems. So please pause right now, write that as the next title on your next blank page, unpause and close your math note when you're done just to concentrate through the I do. Quick review about percents. So 9 out of 17 students in my 6th grade math class used the word point inappropriately last week. What percent of my students used bad language? So percents, remember, are a special ratio out of 100. So even though the word 100 is nowhere in this question, I have that number there. So I'm trying to set up two equal ratios, and I know 9 out of 17 used bad language. And it feels like I don't have enough information to answer the question because I don't have any other numbers here and I need a third one to complete this. But remember, when you see the word percent, you always know you have 100. What portion out of 100 did that? So let's calculate real fast. 100 divided by 17. So that's times that. Now remember my trick here, right? I'm only going to maybe write that far out of my decimal. But my trick with my calculator is I'm just going to leave that whole super long decimal in there. And I'm going to multiply all of it by 9. And it looks like almost 53%, just underneath that. 52 94/100ths percent. Almost 53% of my students are terrible children. Sneaky wording. Sometimes you'll see a problem like this, and they'll say, just like this, 19 out of 17 students use bad language. What percent? And they'll sneak like a didn't in there. And they don't give you the number that didn't use bad language, and it's easy to say, okay, well, 9 out of 17, 52% didn't. But you got to read your wording sometimes. Sometimes I or the test writer will sneak in where you don't use this number in the part to whole. You use the other part, right? So this is my ratio of 9 did to whole. If the wording was sneaky and asked you what didn't, it would be an 8 out of 17 ratio. I just want to give you a heads up, that's often a sneaky thing. Times that. And so that would be the rest. So 53 didn't. I'm going to get like 47.06% didn't. Are good children. So at least, almost half of my children are pretty good. All right, so today, rather than not finding the percent, I'm going to give you the percent in the problem, 61%, and you're going to either have to find the part or the whole of the group. So let's do an example. So this is a let's just work it out. So John got 61% of the votes for class president. 300 students voted. How many votes did John get? So I'm going to set up my proportion here, and I'm going to be careful. So I want to know parts and wholes. So I know the part in the ratio of students who voted. 300 out of, I know the whole. 300 students voted. How many voted for John? So 300 is the whole, so it's going to be a denominator. Doesn't matter which side. Let's just do that side. And I'm trying to find what part of those 300 voted for John. So over here I have the percent. Now again, 60 can feel like I don't have enough numbers to fill this out. But remember, when you see that percent sign, there's always that other number that's not listed, but it's in the problem. So out of every 100 students, 61 of them voted for John. I'm trying to find how many is that out of 300. Well, that's not too bad because I can do that in my head. That's times 3, which means my numerator is going to be times 3. 61. I could probably have done that in my head. Oops, that's not it. 61 times 3. 183. So John got 183 votes. So in this question, I gave you the part, or I gave you the whole, and you had to find the part. In other questions, I'll give you the part, and you have to find the whole, like this one. So Audrey got 12 questions right on her science quiz, which worked out to an 80%. How many questions were on the quiz? So when I set my proportions up here, Audrey got 12. So I kind of want to find a grade. You do how many questions were right out of how many questions total. Part, whole. So here I know the part. Audrey got 12 right, but I don't know how many questions were on there. And her grade was an 80. And I know when there's a percent, that means it's 80 out of 100. So even though there's no 100 in the problem, I know I have one. So I want to find this. So I know, let's see, 12 times what is 80? Oh, I made a bad question here because I don't think this is going to be like a part of a question. Let's see. So this is times that, 6 and 6/10 repeating. It's actually, I need to kind of go the other way, right? Because to find this, I'm going to have to go down. So I'm actually going to think of this not like that, but really going from 80 to 12, I'm dividing by that. Right? And so I'm going to have to take 100, and I'm going to have to divide it by that too. What's wrong with me? Divided by that. Now, my calculator trick is I don't want to type this in because I might miss a number or do something wrong, so I'm just leave it in there. Oh, I can't leave it in there, can I? I'm going to have to do that. Oh, well. So I'm going to take 100 divided by that, 6 and a whole bunch of 6s. And I get that. So this is a weird, so this little 15 on the end, that is only because my calculator, I had to change that number and type it in myself. If I had left it in there, it would have just been 15. So when you see something this close, you can trust that it's just the calculators aren't perfect. And there were 15 questions. If I kind of go the other way, and I could have had that 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, on and on and on. The calculator knows it goes on and on and on and on. I would have just got 15, so don't worry about the little parts. It's just a calculator snafu. So there you had to find the whole. How many whole questions were on there? All right, let's do two together. Why don't we? All right, Victoria saves 20% of all the money she earns. She earns $600 per week. How much money does she save each week? So I'm going to set these up. And I'm looking for a percent as always a part to whole. Right? I know she saves 20%. That's 20 out of every $100 she earns, she saves. And I need to figure out is this part or is this whole? So she earns $600 per week. How much does she save out of that? So that's the whole. And so I need to find the part in this problem. So that is times 6. So that is times 6. And that would mean that Victoria saves $120 each week. Good for her. Good saver. Easy ratio. There's my percent. I found the part of her total that she saves. And as you can imagine, it's probably going to happen here. This is going to be the other situation where I want you to find the whole. All right. So in a survey, 44% of all Artie Head students listed pizza as their favorite school lunch. Pizza got 264 votes. How many students go to Artie Head? So as I set up my proportion, I know that out of every 100 students, because I have a percent, 44 of them prefer pizza as their favorite school lunch. Now, I'm looking at, always with percents, I'm looking at a part to whole ratio. And here I know the part that voted for pizza, but I do not know the whole number of students. So I have to find the whole in this case. So let's see, how do I get from 44 to 264? Multiplied by 6. So I'm going to multiply this by 6, and that means, and that is pretty much right, 600 students are at the school. 44 out of the first 100 voted for pizza, 44 out of the second 100 voted for pizza, 44 out of the third 100, and so on. And if I do this 6 times, that's 600 total students, and it would have been 264 votes for pizza. So that is percent problems, where you find the part or you find the whole when you're given the percent. And that is our last special kind of ratio problem. So once you feel like you understand this, if you want to go back, watch the I do or the we do again, that's fine. But once you've written this down and you think you've got it, you're all set. See you in class.